Well, I guess we're going to be starting with some Facebook Live.
Yes.
While we do this interview, we're about ready to go. Of course, the podcast isn't live.
Yes.
That will be something people can listen to later. But
Yes.
right now we're live.
It'll be nice and edited.
It will be nice, so we will, exactly, we will sound very much professional and polished.
Perfect.
Perfect, yes, exactly. So a few things before we go live. The microphone is very directional.
Okay.
And so if you turn your head, it won't hear you very well. So it's
Should I hold it like this?
no, that won't be comfortable at all. Yeah, this will be just fine, just like that. And don't tap the table. Stacy was very bad. I told
She
her
wanted
not
to tap the table.
She wanted to tap. She wanted to make a point.
Oh, okay.
And the microphone.
So I should make a point here
Yeah,
on my hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or do a fist bump.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, or something like that.
Okay.
So we're about ready to go.
Sounds good.
Well, thanks for joining me today in the lounge, Christy.
Thank you for having me today. I was so impressed that you even asked me, and I had no idea on the way here. Sushi had said, what are you guys going to talk about? I said, I have no idea.
Well, that's two of us, because I don't know what we're going to talk about either. We're going to talk about market.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you work with a lot of interior designers.
Yes.
So
And
tell
manufacturers.
And manufacturers.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's back up a second. You have a business called PuTTin
Out.
PuTTin Out.
Yeah.
All right.
Putting Out.
That's
Now, we put out digital content for manufacturers, social media, content curation, all day long for clients. And so when we were going to name Putting Out, everyone at the end of the board of people, they were asking me, why are you naming, like, what are you going to name the company? I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, what do you do? They didn't, this is in 2009.
Okay.
They had no idea what we really did because they didn't understand social media. They just knew it was working.
sure.
And it was helping sales and helping growth. And I said, really, all we do is put out content all day long. And they're like, my husband said, Putting Out. And I said, no, Boyd, I'm from the South. I can't do Putting Out. And, by the way, our first office was in Las Vegas.
Oh.
I said, do you know what that's going to mean? People
Wow.
are going to, think that we're putting out something else.
Right, right.
And then I remember when we have a Hummer that's polka dotted, just like our business card. And the Hummer, actually, it looks exactly like this.
Oh,
so the
okay.
Hummer looks like this. We call her Dottie. And she has the same lip and tongue on it. The very first place we went, they said, oh, do you have any golf balls to give away? They thought it was putting. Like putting. Golf putting.
Right, right.
And I was like, oh, that's a whole new audience we're tapping into. So it was funny because they just bought into the fact that we were, putting out and that we were brave enough to do it. No one would ever forget the name.
No.
And they don't. So I said, if the .com is available, we don't have to pay extra for it. And we can
Yes.
get all the social sites. That's how I agreed to the name. But I didn't think it was going to happen.
Right.
So the only thing I've ever been refused for is a Nevada license plate that says PuTTin. So instead we had to go with L-I-K-E, so it looks like a like button
Okay.
on Facebook.
I love it. I love it. And how long have you been in business?
Since 2010.
Okay. And what did you do before owning this PR agency?
I actually owned an interior design firm.
So you were an interior designer?
Yes.
Okay.
For 10 years. Yes, I owned an entire firm outside of Atlanta, just north of Atlanta, in an area called Swanee.
Okay.
And my mom and I owned that firm together. And around 2007, started getting really tired of interior design. I'd won several awards for kitchen and bath, and I felt like I'd caught a conquer that industry.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, and then I was getting tired of like the clients, saying, oh, do we have to have this accent? Well, it would be like the piece that pulled together the room.
Right.
And I said, yes, of course, but it's a $300 pillow. And of course, at the time, everyone was trying to save money. And I'm just like, oh, you're sabotaging the design. So I just didn't want to do it anymore. So
Okay.
in 2007, I actually got called by America's Mart to do some speaking, educating on marketing.
Okay.
And I loved it because it's helping retailers stay in business. And I'm like, oh, this is fun. And then a company called One Coast started developing a software called Snap Retail. So Ted Teal is an amazing guy. I began helping him educate retailers, and then started working for venture capital companies, actually curating their social media content for all of the brands and the businesses that they would buy, really helping them get their start.
Okay. So you're doing a lot of this, not just in the interior design space.
Correct, exactly.
So you're across, across the industries.
Yes.
And if I remember correctly, you are speaking here at Market.
Yes.
Did that already happen?
Wait, let's see. I'm not speaking at this market.
Oh, you're not?
No.
Oh, I thought you were speaking.
No.
They should have had you speak at Market.
Oh, that's okay. they probably don't want me to say, I'm only to speak for free.
Oh.
I don't like to prepare a presentation and everything.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
and my content, I like to reserve it for a specific audience. And I just got finished speaking at the Bloggers Conference. So I feel like that content that would have been shared, it's already been shared at the Bloggers Conference, which was absolutely amazing. With Adam Shadlow.
Yep, I was
Did you
there.
go there?
I
Okay,
was there.
okay. So that's where I was. Yeah.
I was podcasting from there.
You were.
And I had an actual,
somebody
and then I had
asked
an
me,
actual Chaise lounge at that one.
Oh, how did I miss you there then?
Were you one of these speakers that comes in, talks, and like runs away?
No, actually I didn't. I actually went to the closet,
Night.
the closet night.
Yeah,
the closet
I was
night.
there.
Pushing pushing the buggy.
We spoke.
the buggy?
We spoke.
Okay.
Because I remember speaking to the gals in the buggy.
Okay, yes.
You were hanging out with another gal.
Yeah, with Jackie Montoya.
Yes.
Yes. Who's
You-
also our client.
Okay.
Yeah, and friend.
Yeah.
Yes, so Jackie and I, we love hanging out together.
This is such a small world. We've
It
already
is.
met.
I know. We have
didn't
already
even
met.
know.
That's really bad, isn't it?
It is.
That's embarrassing, actually. I'm embarrassed to say that I don't remember.
That's okay.
Maybe we already had a cocktail.
Oh, we were having
Yeah.
lots of cocktails.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh yes. Because
So-
they moved us around in a big bus.
They did, yes.
Yeah, so it didn't matter.
And then they were serving like great lilac. I really like those cocktails.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe a little too much.
That was a fun conference.
Yes.
So let's get back on task. Let me ask you, what is it? What do designers need to do in order to get attention?
They need to basically broadcast themselves. They need to show their projects from before and afters. Afters are a huge deal. They need to be real about the cost of things. Like I've met a lot of designers, they showcase things, but they're afraid to say this is a $10,000 sofa, or this is an
designers don't
original
like to talk
Andy
money.
Warhol. No, no one likes to talk money, but the reality is whenever you are talking money and you're talking budget, you're real about it, people understand that what you're charging and your expectations and either the quality of things that you are willing to work with, or the pieces that you're also willing to bring in that maybe aren't so expensive. Because there can be times that maybe it's a $1,200 sofa with an Andy Warhol, or a $2,000 one versus a $30,000 one. Because we all get sticker shock on something. There's only something that sticker shocks every client. And I think it's much better on social to let them know, give them an idea of cost. So sometimes it can be showcasing product on a website, showing the cost of the room. Because we're in a very HGTV-minded audience now.
Yeah.
And
You can decorate my whole house
yes.
for $10,000.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And in 4 days.
That I hated him in 2005 when he did what was the show that he did for $1,000?
Trading Spaces?
Yeah, Trading Spaces. Oh gosh, and he would say that everything fell apart over us, and he would sometimes stay up to make sure that it did. Like he would lay the floor and everything himself. Like because the reality is, no designer that's really good outside of television is going to do that. So it gave people a false sense of cost. So I remember coming in and a client that I'd worked with, and they'd spent like $10,000 or $20,000 on a room, would say, "Oh, but I want you to do it for $1,000." I said, "My fees are $1,500 to start on a room. So how are you going to get this room done for $1,000? It's not going to be with me." And so you're going to have to do it yourself. You're going to have to find everything. There's a lot that interior designers take care of that I feel like aren't necessarily broadcast on social media. They have the opportunity to, such as if your sofa comes in damaged, yes, you don't really want the client to know, but sometimes it's not a bad thing for a client to know that everything is not going on perfectly.
but that you're taking care of.
Yes, absolutely. And I really made my clients feel really good about that. They felt connected. I remember when social media first came about in 2007, we would post when things arrived, and I found that I was getting less calls about things because they would see it on social media, and they would know that, okay, I'm on the working for other people, and that we weren't running off with their money. Because that was the fear of people back then, because there have been so many designers who had take hundreds of thousands of dollars on a project, and really, that was their retirement, I guess, and they were going other places on other people's money. So, it took away the fear that she's going to run away. And so, I feel like there's a huge transparency out there of being able to show and share what people really want to know. And even if you look at traditional home magazine, this month is the first month they've ever put this week on the cover. I was so impressed. They actually have people. It's no longer just a room. It's about the person involved in that space or that house. And we feel more connected as a person involved.
I wanted to get back to the topic of
hey guys, I'll just ask them. Gentlemen, hello. Hi. We're recording a podcast right here. Yeah, it's okay. We're just getting your. It's okay. We don't want to record your conversation. We're going to be private. Okay, we're back at you. Okay.
that's the beauty of having live, because this is the stuff that happens.
This is really the stuff that happens. We just asked someone to move so that you can hear us.
Anyways, sorry about that. I wanted to ask about, because I talk to a lot of designers that have that as a problem. Like their customers can say, well, I saw on Trading Spaces or some reality show, and they said that it was, they did this whole house for $20,000 or whatever. That was unrealistic. What's the best way for a designer to overcome that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Making sure that people know that it's managed expectations and letting people know how much stuff really costs, and not letting people think that, just because a chandelier is maybe a $500 chandelier or it's refurbished, that it is free. And just know what the value of things really are. The publishing, sometimes your pricing on what you're going to charge as a designer. And yes, of course, sometimes it can scare people away. I remember the first time we had the business in Swanee, Georgia. In 1999, we did not have a website, but by 2003, we were publishing prices on the web. And yes, it had not been a lot of calls coming in, but at the same time, the way we looked at it was we had staff answering these calls, and only about 3% of the calls were going to result in an actual sale. But people also knew what we were going to charge them. They knew that they were going to be charged, a percentage above cost, a percentage above retail if you had to buy anything from retail. And they felt like we were very transparent in the fact that we weren't trying to hide things from them. And that we would go to a source to meet their budgets and discussing budget up front. I mean, even today, when I'm going in with a marketing client and say, what's your budget? And they turn around and tell me that, this Facebook is free and they want to pay $500 a month. I'll say, well, we're not the people for you. Because there's no sense in carrying on that further conversation if that is their expectation. Because I say time is money, and you have to determine who you're going to spend your time with, and how much is it actually worth. Because there are times that I feel like designers they have resources and they know exactly where to go and get things, and it's going to be great the first time. And if you don't have to repaint a room, or you don't have to replace railing on a staircase, and everything is cohesive and goes together, that designer's worth $1 million. And there are times that paint consultations, you can charge for a paint consultation and broadcast that and say how much you actually save the person is. To paint a house can be $10,000 to $20,000. And so if the color is chosen wrong, forget it. It has to be redone.
Yeah.
Your $1,500 paint consultation is nothing because they get the color right the first time.
Right.
So I think it's
want to turn corners a little bit and kind of go talk a little bit more about what you do with clients. And I want to know, what's the difference in starting a campaign with somebody that's maybe a new designer versus somebody who's maybe been at it 8 or 10 years, but they've not really gone down this road,
right.
Worked with somebody like you. So how do those two different campaigns?
Well, we typically work with people, we like to work with people who have personality, who are willing to expose their personality online, who have somewhat of an audience or an interesting story to tell to begin with. And sometimes those stories have to be crafted, some people need to craft their story, really determine what is it, what audience am I after. And then some people actually cross market. So in other words, they may have an HGTV audience and they may also have an architectural digest audience.
Sure.
And so knowing who your audience is a big part. And so we can actually review who the audience is and how we are going to tap into that audience in a bigger way. And I do a little bit of market research. So it's very important. And then also knowing where the designer wants to be. So the very first thing we do is ask them what their year plan, their 5-year plan, 10-year plan is, and what their exit strategy is. As many times they think they're going to be designing forever because they love it, but there's rarely a designer out there that makes the past 20 years that can say that they absolutely love the design industry. And so they have to segue into something else, whether it be product development or brand ambassadorships, because typically they have very good taste and the ability to carry over to the brand ambassadorship market.
Do you work with folks in that transition?
Yes, absolutely. We actually create the transitions for them, even if they're younger, if they're hot, and they've just maybe recently discovered. Like we have Javier Gomez, who's People Magazine Sexiest Artist Alive. He's one of our youngest clients.
Yeah.
He's very hot and he's sexy and he's extremely talented. He had to deal with Wolverine before he came to us and Fendi, and he's just an amazing talent. But he's 27, so sometimes at age 27, people think, well, I'm only going to sell original photography, and I'm only going to sell or I'm only going to sell limited edition. And he's one of the few that knows, I need to find another avenue. I need to find a way to really, be able to make money in my sleep.
Sure.
And how do I do that?
So you're not trading that time for dollars.
We're not trading time for dollars. Yeah. But yet we're still keeping what he's interested in doing, and which is photography. Because I ask people if they can spend their time doing, put on a list what you're doing every day, and find the 3 things on the list that you really want to do every day. And sometimes it's workout, sometimes it's exercise, sometimes it's do a live cast, it's go on casting calls or be discovered, acting or whatever it may be. But I'm like, if you're wasting time doing even your laundry and you hate doing laundry, then you're really wasting maybe an hour a week. So the cost of maybe doing your laundry is maybe $30. So if you can trade that hour for something else that you love and enjoy, do it. Don't feel guilty about it. And let's really diversify your income in a way that people can maximize from it. And obviously social media is the biggest avenue for that. So you have to have that social following, you have to have the personality to get the following. And then you can prepare yourself for the right people.
That's a topic. Pairing with some partnerships and strategic partnerships. Sometimes money is changing and sometimes it's not.
Absolutely.
Can you give me some examples? What are some of those that you've worked with?
Yeah, so we manage the brand for Aaron V. And Aaron V, for instance, is a Hollywood designer, designs for Ashton Kutcher, Gordon Ramsay, Hillary Clinton, and so she has a brand ambassadorship with a company called Quickstep. So she is a huge fan of Quickstep already, and Quickstep needed someone like her that could really portray their product to the design audience, because it's a situation where it's a laminate. So if you say that something is a laminate flooring, people literally cringe. And I remember when we were putting Quickstep in with but you're after high end and you're using laminate. And I would say, what, have you seen Christi? And they say no, but it's laminate. And so people walk into Windward Lab and they say, oh, I love this flooring. Who's it by? And I say, that's Christi flooring. And people literally like go, no, but that's laminate. And I'm like, this is the laminate.
Right.
This is it. But you're seeing it in person. And so when Aaron, or somebody like Aaron, puts their name on something that they truly already believe in,
Sure.
and they're paired with that company in a great partnership where they're blogging for them, they're retweeting for them, it's a huge help. But obviously there's a monetary aspect to some of it. Sometimes it's a product exchange, sometimes it's a monetary exchange, and sometimes it can be both.
Yeah.
So, that's a big part of going in and recording videos for them and making people understand that she would not put her name on something that did not look fantastic.
Right.
So that's a big deal for some companies. So I say, to designers out there that if you're, some people say, well, I want a partnership with like someone that they don't even buy products from or that they don't genuinely like, and I'm like, well, why would you do that? Because it's not about the money, it's about you guys having a great partnership and getting things that each of you need. They need validation. You need to know, that your name is going to be going on and paired with this product because you're basically promoting it, not necessarily as your own, but that the quality is good, so people can be happy with what you're promoting.
Sure.
Because if one incident happens and it goes bad, it can affect everything. Think about Tiger Woods and Nike.
Right.
I mean, his personal life affected a really, really big deal. And then you have Romero Brito, who's a very famous Brazilian artist who makes $6.75 million a year off of licensing. And it's really off of less than 6 or 7 patterns. And some artists may look and say, but he sold out. That's the biggest thing we hear.
Right.
He sold out.
Yeah.
But the reality is he didn't sell out. He sold and he licenses some of his patterns and he makes a very nice income from it. And yes, that's going to cause a little bit of jealousy and tension, especially when it involves art. I've learned this. And it's just about diversifying however that is. So, basically go through your list, designers when you go through your list, find out who they're really already buying from. And go to those companies and see, brand ambassadorship wise, if they, if they're a good partner, if they're looking for someone that may be a great partner for the market.
So tell me a little bit more about that brand ambassadorship, because I've heard that term thrown around probably more so this week than I have in a while.
Yeah.
What kind of money is thrown around? Is it? I guess it probably depends.
It varies.
Okay.
It totally varies. It depends on the person's clout score. So when we're looking at brand ambassadorships for our clients that are manufacturers,
Okay.
whether it be a blogger asking for a particular product, or I don't care if it's a pair of shoes. We look at their clout score, which means basically everything on social media.
Right.
That is combined. So all of your social media, so your Facebook, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, your engagement. So some people may look and say, oh, but they only have 900 followers on Facebook, and they only have 1,000 on Pinterest, or whatever account it is. But the real juice, the real meat of it is the clout score, because it shows the amount of engagement that their fans have. Like, for instance, we represent Donna Voss, who has the show Donna Decorates Dallas on HGTV. And when you look at her accounts, she may not have 50,000 Instagram followers. She may have 8 or 10.
Okay.
And on Twitter, yeah. But to some people, they may look at it and say, but so-and-so over here has 40. But the question is, if Donna really wanted 40,000 fans, she could buy them overnight.
Sure.
But the real issue is the clout score. So we can measure all of your online influence through cloud. And so I say, if you're looking to hire a marketing person that has a bad cloud score, beware. Because that's where typically things start. Because that means they have no influence.
Sure.
Alexa ranking. So your website and your Alexa ranking.
Now, you're going to have to explain that one. Now, I know what the Alexa score is, or ranking is, but please.
Alexa is your amount of click-throughs, the amount of backlinks that you have coming into your website, the amount of and the measure of influence even on those other sites. So, for instance, our Alexa can be really high on one site because maybe we have NBC linking into that site, or we have another major platform. Whereas you can have the same site without that measure linking in, and the Alexa ranking can go down significantly. So we always look at when we're managing for clients, and say we have one publication or an online publication or blogger wanting a certain story, and they're wanting exclusivity on the story, we go with the person who has the higher Alexa ranking. So it's just a little app. You don't have to buy the complimentary version. You may not buy you get the complimentary version. Buy the in-depth if you want to learn more about your site, but it tells the truth.
Yeah.
You can't lie.
Right. Yeah. Well, we've touched on a lot of topics that we've never talked about.
Good.
So
Excellent.
We've kind of uncovered a few things. What's maybe so if a designer wanted to reach out to you and say, "Can you guys help me?"
Sure.
What do you guys look at? And I guess where's the bar for you guys?
Yeah, we have. Obviously the bar is personality and the compatibility with us. Compatibility is a big factor for sure, because when we're doing marketing, I want my staff, I want everyone to feel comfortable with that person.
Right.
And I want the person to be real in person as they are online.
Yes.
Because if they're a monster in person, we make them sound nice online, it doesn't help at all. Because
it doesn't happen in the interior design space. What are you talking about?
Never. So we are not a company that will just take on anyone. Matter of fact, we take on maybe 10% of the people that contact us. And typically those are the people that contact us are typically by referral.
Sure.
And outside of that, we do an education piece, just like I'm having this interview with you, so that I don't have to have 25 conversations of why we won't just take anyone on.
Right.
And I do love to help people. I love to help them get to that next level, and on their own or with another party until they can, I say, afford us, but also that they're ready for us. Because we have a lot of contacts in the industry, but we only take those contacts when they're ready. Like, in other words, I'm not going to take pitch Margaret Russell at Architectural Digest on a project that's not a fit for Margaret Russell, because I want to listen to it. But I do have something, and I do have a client. So it could be sometimes once a year, or sometimes once a month. It really just depends. But at the same time, it's going to be they're going to think about it. It's going to be a 90% fit for them.
Right.
Because I know what they're looking for. I know that they're looking for a story. I know they're looking for the community involved. So we ask our clients this ahead of time. And then sometimes we have to work with the client for a year and a half or 2 years to get the right scouting shots and to get the right projects to get into that particular publication.
Sure. Lots of stuff. How many folks do you guys typically work with?
It really just depends. Typically every time we take on a new client, I will hire a new body to help meet that expectation. So we don't just stockpile and hope that we can meet that expectation. So like I took on a client while I was in China and literally hired sushi yesterday. So that's just the way we work, and it's the natural course of whatever we need. Sometimes it's multi-language. Sometimes it is a matter of me just wanting to make sure. We may have clients that, like, for instance, we had one that speaks Mandarin. Like their native language, they've already hired us. But I have a feeling there's a little bit of things that they may not understand. So I want to make sure that they understand I also believe no matter if it's just today or tomorrow or whenever, that she will learn a lot. Hopefully. So, you know, I love to share the knowledge that I know because I'm already doing it anyway. So why not, as I'm walking, her to be able to ask me questions afterwards that she can take with her through life.
Yeah.
So.
Well, gosh, we've covered a ton of stuff. How can folks reach out and connect with you if they want to?
They can digitally, they can reach out to PuTTin, and it's PuTTinout.com. So that's where we publish a lot of information on blogging and a lot of how-tos. We use that site for our educational series and all the information and case studies that we're doing digitally for clients. And then if people want to see the branding that we create, the brands that we manage, and that's a completely different piece of the puzzle. So it's the public relations, media creation, the brands. Like we create everything from their logos to websites with our partners. We have several web partners, and we get them, you know, on a business level where they need to go. And that's Tasker Agency. That's TASKER agency.com. And both sites have a wealth of information.
We will put those in the show notes. Thanks so much for you to come out and spend some time with me in the lounge.
Thank you so much.
This has been great. Thanks.
Yeah, sweet. Thank you.
And we're done. That's